All right, let's go live. Hopefully, my connection will hang out with me while we roll this first live in a shit over a month now. You guys let me know where the audio's cool. Kind of checking on a couple things. Run Gun, what's up, my brother? Make sure I got all this kind of set. So anyway, now this shit's a pop-up live, guys. Just say hi to everybody. It's been forever since I've been on. Sassy, what's up, sis? Jova, what is up, my brother? Good. Miss Jada, how's it going with you, my sister? So just kind of an update, just kind of touching base with everybody because I have been on or off for a while. You'll see my walls are all cleaned up. I'm working on a big plasma cut go back there. C&T Designs is actually a registered LLC now. Got all the paperwork filed for the FFL, waiting to hear back from the ATF on when the interview is. So we're getting the FFL side rolling. So that's kind of been where things have been happening. Me and the wife are waiting to hear back on our status for the FFL, waiting to hear back from the ATF on when we can actually start building guns and repairing guns. So it'll be a 07 or 0307. So be able to repair, be able to sell on the gunsmithing end of things, and be able to build ARs, AKs on my end of things. So that's where all the energy's been at. That's where everything's been going for the last little bit. Brother Kurt, what is up? Kurt, why the hell are you not a mod? Hold on, we got to fix something real fast. Or well, Kurt's over on the freaking Rumble side of things. That's why. All right, now I got it. Damien, what is up, brother man? How's things going? So yeah, as soon as we get all that figured out, I'll put the word out to everybody and let everybody know. There's a couple guys I'm going to hit up to see once we get the website built if we can be vendors for them. Goon Beam, hint, hint, things like that. So yeah, things are starting to come together, man. I waited pretty much throughout the Biden years to just kind of sit on the FFL into things and not do anything with it. Now that we got Trump in, now that we got a little bit more favorable administration that doesn't want to shut every FFL on the planet down. Me and the wife been talking for a little while, and it's just time to go get things kicked off. So that's where we're at, and it's an open floor, guys. Anybody wants to come in can come in. It's just to hang out. Hit dark up for definition knives. Yeah, that's a plan, Kurt. Hit dark and Rich up, see whether we can start once we get the website built out. If they want, if we can start posting or be a vendor for them, I'd love to do that. What will more than likely happen is there will be a whole nother channel started up that's dedicated just towards the business end that doesn't have my smart ass comments and content on it. That'll just be more for things that we're working on, just the business side of it itself. And then any kind of commentary as far as general bullshit or political shit will be still hosted over here. And we all know how YouTube is on firearms or anything like that. So we'll see how long that lasts. More than likely, do some lives over on Rumble showing things that we're actually working on and why we're working on them. But we'll see how everything develops, man. It's kind of like I said, you can see all my walls which are cleaned off with all my other stuff. You can see vices and drill presses and stuff mounted in the back now, because we will be a home-based FFL to start out with. We'll see where that goes. Then if we actually open up either a storefront or build the shop that we want out here on our place, then we'll kind of move everything over that way. What's up, Warsaw?
What up, Coop?
Man, same old same. Just trying to get everything rolling and keep it between the ditches.
Yeah. So June 6th, and I think it's 27th. That's when we're supposed to get more out of the Seventh Circuit. That's for their schedule.
Okay, now is that oral arguments or is that just updates on everything?
That's it's the briefing. So pretty much the state's got to reply back to the Seventh Circuit. Then they file a brief, and then pretty much we start from there.
Okay.
Here, I'll send you the schedule because Greg Bishop was covering it.
Yeah, I didn't catch Center Square today.
Here, I'll send it to you.
Which there's been a lot of stuff I've been lurking in lately, but we've been so busy I haven't been able to do lives and haven't been able to kind of keep up with everybody. But
text it to you.
Things are definitely rolling, man.
Yep, finally.
Yeah, I saw it pop up. Dude, that video you sent me of the damn raccoon with the meth pipe the other night was hysterical.
Dude. It's like Cocaine Bear, but it's a raccoon now on meth.
This is
actually,
and for you guys, I'd have to find it and post it. But this lady gets pulled over in a traffic stop, figure out she's got a ticket, or not a ticket, but her license is suspended. She's got a warrant. And the cops are sitting there waiting to figure out what's happening and everything. And apparently her pet raccoon was in the vehicle with her, and the pet raccoon is playing with her meth pipe while the cops are standing there. It's hysterical. And the cops are laughing their asses off at it.
Texted it to you right there.
It is funny as hell. Yeah. You texted it to me again. But it is absolutely hysterical. This raccoon is sitting there playing with a meth pipe while the police are standing there. You can't make this stuff up, man. You could, but no one would believe it. Actual video of this.
I mean, I thought it was a skit, but no, apparently this thing was actually playing around with the thing.
Yeah. No, that's no shit legit. Raccoon playing with a meth pipe. Let's see. There it is in chat. But yeah, raccoon playing with a meth pipe in front of the cops. I wish we were making that shit up. That's how far our society has fallen. Even the damn raccoons are getting methed out these days. It's absolutely hysterical.
See, it's shit like this that takes off all the bullshit out of the politics and just sit back and just enjoy your life for once.
Oh, man. For a good laugh, this is actually hitting the spot. For commentary on how far society has fallen, yeah, it's kind of depressing.
Have you seen that movie, by the way, Coop? Cocaine Bear?
Have I seen what?
Cocaine Bear.
Dude, it's been a while since I even looked at anything like that. But yeah, I've heard of it. Cole, what's up, brother, man? I meant to say hi to you earlier.
That's actually based on a true story. I was surprised to hear that, but yeah, it actually happened.
I heard something about it. I heard it was based on a true story. I haven't looked at it yet, though. It doesn't surprise me.
Well, it was some cartel members
raccoons
lose a whole fucking wad of coke in a bag, and next thing you know, the bears are getting a hole over
it. Trying to change a couple of things real quick. Oh, I was going to show you guys if I can pull this up. It's been so long since I streamed, man. I'm freaking lost trying to pull stuff up right now. I'll show you guys the logo the wife's working on. if that show's halfway decent.
So you're going the whole Spartan thing?
Yeah, we're staying with that kind of theme. I could probably bring it up another way and make it look a little cleaner, but yeah, we're definitely staying with that. Which, I mean, I wanted the theme to be kind of Spartan anyway, because that's where the come and take or the C&T comes from anyway. Well, that and other places kind of a dual theme, but
Malabla Bay, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Burnaby, what's up, brother man? How are you? Run gun, what are you throwing out in chat?
It's the meth pipe. The racking with the meth pipe.
Oh, the meth pipe. Yeah, that's hysterical.
Just like Cocaine Bear.
It would be even funnier if it wasn't so sad that that's how far we've fallen. It really would.
I don't even think it's smart to actually have a raccoon as a pet, and just because I've seen what they're capable of doing their own kind. They're very vicious animals.
Trying to catch replays and stuff. I haven't been catching any real lives lately, but thank you, Gina. Yeah, I think that's where pretty much where the logo is going to stay. She's kind of tweaked it here or there, but I think it's going to stay there because I love it. It's a whole lot better than what I was coming up with. What, almost 3 years ago now, when I was going to start everything up. G23, what is up, brother man? So update, yeah, the effort or the business has actually started. C&T Designs and Arms is now a registered or a registered LLC in Alabama. We're waiting on the FFL end. So going through everything. All the paperwork's been submitted for the FFL. Waiting to hear back from the ATF on interviews and stuff like that. God knows how long that's going to take. Brother Oz, what is up? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully everybody's doing well.
I don't know if you've been keeping update. Did you see what happened out of California, by the way?
So which end of it, man?
You had overwhelming amount of legislators that literally defied people's warnings, and they pretty much passed the bill overnight, amending the laws, saying, well, we're not going to protect children anymore, and we're going to allow pedophiles to go rampant sky-free.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Dude, I heard about that, at least a week or so ago now. It's hard, man. I've been so busy with the wife and trying to get all this rolling.
Yep.
And moving all the tools over here and getting our work area straightened out. I haven't been able to really keep anything kind of on the front burner. Everything else is kind of in the background. I've been hearing a lot of stuff, watching a lot of stuff, but have not been able to keep track of everything.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you're a legislator, goddamn.
I think the last thing I was following hard was oh, dude, that's going to happen more. It was either Washington or Oregon just passed some stuff that was pretty much like that.
Great.
And you're going to see that happen more and more in these freaking Democrat-run states.
And guess what? The feds
just
are
like
going
all
to
the gun control. Just like all the gun control you're seeing. Well, this administration might go after them. But when the next administration rolls over, if it's a Democrat administration, they're not going to go after them.
Just because you're
Bonnie and Cash were supposed to make a statement today about busting some pedophile rings. I didn't watch it. It was
did.
I think I saw it. Yeah. It was coming up right when I decided to start this up because this wasn't even playing today.
It was on Magno News. I just saw it go up a little bit ago.
Newton or G23 said Newsom said he was going to veto it. I'd be amazed if he did.
Oh, fuck. No, he won't. That fucker is always doing shit.
You can't get more hillbilly than a raccoon holding a meth pipe. Nah. I was hillbilly. Yeah, you're right, Oz, man. California does so much stupid shit, it's hard to keep track. But it's
Well,
happening in almost every Democrat-run state right now. It was Colorado was trying to pass. What was the last thing I posted off Colorado? Because I just did a community post off them. Oh, it was the voluntary do not buy list or do not sell list, where people can basically get their name put into the NICS system to voluntarily not be able to purchase firearms. So it basically voluntarily make them a prohibited possessor. And the paperwork would go through overnight, but it takes at least 30 days, they say, to get your name taken off of that list. And I think Alabama was trying to pass that too. Washington State passed something similar a year or so ago, if not 2 years ago now, in another state. And basically, the only people who even signed on to voluntarily not be able to purchase, I think that it might have been up to like 15 people or some shit. But it was all people who weren't going to buy firearms in the first place that were absolutely anti-gun anyway.
Yeah. But could be perhaps something to think that Democrat states are going to get away with all this shit. Honestly, I don't think so, because even if your state laws think you're going to protect yourself, there's a thing. You're still part of the union. And if you defy the union, it's exactly what we saw during the Second World War. I mean, so the American Civil War, plus the issue we also had during the time of segregation.
Well, I mean, look at it, man. How long has it been since Bruin? And look at how many states are still passing stuff that's absolutely unconstitutional.
Let them.
Guns.
Let them.
And nothing's happening to them.
It's going to be a news for every state that's doing it.
Yeah,
because at this point, you
how
can't
much has
just
changed with these states since then?
It will change, trust me. I mean, why do you think they're holding back that Snope case? They haven't denied it. But
personally, they don't want to take it because they don't want to make another decision that they're going to get railed over.
I think it, like I said,
they could take Snope. They could take state. They could take Snope. They could take Ocean State. They could completely kill mag bans and assault weapons bans, and then when the states from or the suits from Illinois actually come to the Supreme Court, they could GVR them and tell them, no, you go back and fix that, and completely crush all of it. But they haven't done it yet.
But I think that's why they're waiting for Illinois.
Snope and Ocean State have been relisted, 10 or 11 times now?
Got me.
Just, what's up, brother? Yeah, it's like 10 or 11 times Snope and Ocean State have been relisted. And
that was because of the Fourth Circuit that was over there in Massachusetts and Maryland.
Yeah, but I mean, those suits or those cases have already run all their appeals. They're completely ready for the Supreme Court to take them. And the Supreme Court just keeps relisting. And there was another one that they shot down that they should have taken that was kind of in that same vein. I can't remember that case. It may have been Brown.
Was it the knife case in Hawaii?
Maybe.
But all I know is
I can't remember offhand, but they come. It's Roberts. Yeah, Roberts is definitely not taking any of these things. Like Roberts is afraid he's going to get railed in the media over these cases, and Roberts is not Second Amendment friendly at all. Matter of fact, the dissent from some of this from Thomas has just been outstanding, but he's definitely the lone voice in a lot of this. Lightning Scott, what is up, my brother?
But if I had to bet anything, I'm betting they're waiting for the Illinois case over Snope. So to get the Illinois case aside with the Snope case, and I think that's what they're going to do is they're going to put the two together.
The Illinois case is definitely another slap that it's so blatant that they almost have to take it. But like I said, they could take up Snow, they could take up Ocean State, and when the Illinois cases actually, run out all their appeals and are ready for the Supreme Court to take, the Supreme Court could just GVR them and tell them, look, you guys need to go back and fix this. But if they GVR them, Easterbrook and the rest of these numbnuts are just going to laugh in their face.
Easterbrook, believe it or not, is on there anymore.
Easterbrook's not on there anymore?
Last I checked or heard, I think he's no longer on there.
Look at how many people sided with Easterbrook, though.
It's Chicago.
Maybe I'm just a little too freaking jaded on a lot of it. But again, look at how long it's been since brewing, and these states are still just telling the Supreme Court that they don't care.
Well, then you got the illegal
Court
situation.
Hasn't went in and slapped any of these.
What was it?
To me, what's more important? The rights of the American people. You can fix the illegal shit. Almost nobody is denied their rights over the illegal situation and going to prison. When it comes to the Second Amendment, people are being denied their rights, denied their freedom, denied their rights to property, to liberty, and even to life, because they're getting shot at by law enforcement over these unconstitutional laws. So the unconstitutional laws, to me, are way more important than illegals being here. We can solve the illegal problem.
No, but the last time we had a state by federal issue like this, I'd say was miscegenation. Miscegenation laws were put in the South, and after the time of segregation, and they had a interracial marriage couples that were literally trying to get married, but the state said no. They took it to SCOTUS. SCOTUS then actually said to the states, take these laws off. It'll be your ass. Get them removed. And they did. They removed them. They're unconstitutional, unjust.
Yeah, well, these states have become a whole lot more ballsy about doing unconstitutional shit since then, too. And you had a whole lot more. You know why they're doing it. You had a whole lot more public pressure when it came to something like segregation or interracial marriages.
That's just a prime example, though, because technically the feds actually have higher power over the state because the states are part of the union, and those states have to abide by the union.
Well, the feds technically have certain powers, and people talk about the supremacy and stuff like that. The only time the feds have power over the states is when states are doing things that are unconstitutional. Now, in this case, you have states that are doing things unconstitutional, but for the most part, the federal government agrees with the unconstitutional laws. So the feds are not going to use their power against these states for the most part. Ribbit, what's up, brother?
I mean, you know why they do this most of the time, right, Coop?
Well, because they can get away with it.
No, political monopoly. It's for money.
That's exactly what they do.
No, it's for money.
Oh, well, money's a lot of it. Money's a hell of a lot of it. And like Lightning said, pot, which there is nothing in the Constitution that gives any government the power to make any drug illegal either, but they keep doing that.
I'm hearing some states are even trying to legalize prostitution now.
I mean, most people don't realize. So there's nothing that gives the government the power to make prostitution illegal.
For some reason, the state side as well as the federal government did. Part of it, I think, was spreading HIV and
there's a hearing. There's a hearing at 2:00 today that has to do with federal laws and the growth in federal laws that I actually want to watch or listen to. Yeah, and Matt's right. The Constitution has supremacy, not necessarily the federal government. The supremacy clause is like the interstate commerce clause. It's been so bastardized and so just absolutely twisted and misused that it doesn't even look like what the original founders' intent was for it. I mean, the interstate commerce clause was never supposed to be this bludgeon.
Well, and a friend of mine told me this, Coop.
But
I think you talked to him before.
Yeah.
He told me this: we don't need just attorneys; we need historians explaining to the justices and judges that are actually sitting and listening to us. A historian actually makes it more clear and understanding than an actual attorney.
Well, attorneys, the whole field, the whole legal field has been had this leftist skew for so long. It's hard to find any attorney that really has any respect for the Constitution or the constitutional rights of people. It's all been about loopholes and
money.
How we can read this word to mean something that it didn't mean when it was originally agreed to. It's very hard. Proportionally, it's very hard to find a lawyer who actually believes in the foundations of the Constitution or state constitutions.
Yeah.
And that's a sad thing to say, but that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, give me a sec. I'll be right back. Let me grab something.
10-4.
Keep them entertained. Sing and dance for a second.
Keep them entertained. You always do this every once in a while. I don't know. Honestly, I think the states are losing a major losing battle. It's like why they're putting up more laws and everything and regulations. I mean, it's literally because they're trying to defy Trump. But also, I think, mind you, I think they're having a losing battle at this point because regardless, my hindsight is I think they're going to lose because they're defying the union. Last time I checked on the union, the states, especially down in the South, they pretty much lost that battle. I mean, you can keep pushing as many laws as you want, doesn't make it right, and you're just putting yourself a target in their back.
Well, you can have all the targets on someone's back that you want to have, but if no one's willing to shoot at that target, it doesn't matter. Again, right and left. I mean, if Bruin had any effect, Colorado with their recent basically ban anything semi-auto and mag-fed, they wouldn't have been able to even get that to the House floor, much less get it passed and signed by a governor.
Oh, you mentioned that. Colorado is also adopting a version of a FOID called a FOID, and because of that issue alone, they're actually want to destroy the FOID Act in the state of Illinois, but also in any other state that's going to adopt a certain version permit like that. I mean, we're in this shit together, whether we like it or not. I mean, if you're in a red or blue state, it doesn't fucking matter anymore. All bets are off. We're all here to support one another.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially in this legal battle now, dude.
Dude, I mean, Alabama, they passed a couple things. I don't know whether they've been signed by the governor yet. One was supposed to be kind of directed toward Glock switches, but it basically made the way it's worded. It would make anybody a felon who had anything that could be a full auto part for a receiver.
What was it? California, Washington gun law was covering this. They were trying to ban every new Glock out in the market just because it has the cruciform.
Oh, yeah.
That's in the legislation, the cruciform. And you pointed that out, especially if you accidentally were building your Glock and you're not properly tuning that cruciform, that technically can make you into a felon overnight.
Yeah. I mean, you take and build the P80s. Hopefully they'll come back in. Hopefully you're building out of different manufacturers' parts, and different manufacturers build stuff to different specs. You can definitely get a gun that will run full auto, and then you've got to go in, test it, tune it to where it's not full auto. Ask me how I know, because I've had guns that would definitely malfunction like that, and it's a malfunction. You go back in, you tune the cruciform, that way you're getting enough sear engagement, and it's fine. But that's the reason, like gunsmithing, you test guns. You don't go in and just say they're good. And when you go in and live fire test them, you use snap caps. So you put in a live round, put in a snap cap. That way you know the first live round fires, you know what chambers and cycles. And then once you know everything's good, then you can stack in a couple more rounds, and then you can, test the rest of it. It doesn't take a whole lot for a malfunction to happen to where you're not getting enough sear engagement, and just about any semi-auto gun will want to run full auto.
I mean, what was it? SKS's. Like, if you didn't clean out the actual firing pin, you could have a sticky bolt, and then there's you got an auto fire.
A piece the size of a credit card is now a machine. Yeah, lightning with the freaking auto key card stuff. Well, hell, I mean, the ATF classified a fucking rubber band and a shoestring as machine guns at one point. That's how retarded it is. And last I checked, when you went in to buy shoestrings or boot laces, you didn't have to have a tax stamp on them, but they definitely got classified as machine guns, or possible machine guns, depending on how they were used, of course.
I don't know if you saw, Coop. Did you see that the Mexican president was denying Trump's assistance with the U.S. Army?
Yeah. Which, dude, the U.S. Army, Special Forces, any of that doesn't need to be involved in South America.
Unless we're invasively being attacked by their country, we shouldn't be sending our military presence down there.
We just need to lock down the border, call it a day, let Mexico be Mexico. That's the only way you handle that.
But there's no denying that Mexico is still a narco state.
We've been involved in South America. Oh, they're always going to be a narco state. Yeah, 4473 to buy a 3D printer. Yeah. There was federal legislation year before last. Yeah, it was when Biden was still in it. Basically would have had that kind of ramification where you would have had to have a 4473 to have anything like a desktop mill or a 3D printer. Hell, I think, was it California or Washington State? I can't remember which state it was, but I mean, they wanted you to have to, I think they passed something that would basically make you have to fill out a 4473 just to buy replacement parts. So if you wanted to swap out barrels or anything like that, you'd have to fill out a 4473 just on the barrel. That's how ridiculous some of these states are right now. If brewing actually mattered, these states wouldn't be able to pull this horse shit, but they're still pulling it. Class 3 for Bridgeport, yep. But look at how some of it's worded. Like some of the bill, this is primarily going to be used for manufacturing firearms, or could be used for manufacturing firearms. Then you'd need this, tax stamp or something for it. It's ridiculous. Like criminals, like it's going to stop a single crime. I mean, criminals aren't going out and going through 4473s. They're not getting tax stamps. They're just doing it. That's part of being a criminal.
Oh, Coop, do you want to talk something? Let me find that video. Hold on. There was some incident that happened in Chicago, and did you follow Calling in the War by any chance?
Yeah, yeah.
I shit you not. Some fucking Chicago officer out of fucking Chicago. Let's just put it this way: he confiscated the gun. Well, then it anonymously went missing in the evidence locker, and now it's back on the streets, and it's being used in multiple crimes.
The Mexican government's in bed with the cartels. Yeah, the Mexican government's been in bed with the cartels. I mean, hell, the Mexican government and their officials make so much money off the cartels. It's just not even funny.
Technically, we trained them.
That's the only reason the cartels have been able to make it and become as powerful as they are in Mexico. Oh, well, we trained a lot of them. Through the School of Americas, which is School of Americas, right down on Fort Benning, not too far from me. We trained a hell of a lot of South American troops, and then they turned around and started working for the cartels. Well, that and some other governments that weren't real friendly to their people. That's why I said we've been involved in South America for decades and decades. And we just need to be completely out of it. Start controlling our borders, leave South America to be South America, and get the fuck out of the way. Whenever they decide that they want to be actual functioning states. Contra was a fun game. Yeah, it was. I missed the very first Contra on Nintendo. Matter of fact, I downloaded it on Xbox, a year or two ago, but man, it's just not the same.
Here you go. I got the video. I posted in the side chat here for you. But no, this is going on last month in Chicago, and I'm like, okay, I've heard of bad cops, corrupt cops, but not like this predicament.
Well, dude, the ATF was having freaking guns walk out of their evidence lockers.
There it is, posed in there. You can't make this shit up.
Way worse than that.
And mind you, this is Chicago, one of the most gun-restricted places.
Well, when criminals start following gun laws will make sense, but they're not gonna.
Nope. No, because they love living the thug life.
This idiot law they passed in this idiot law they passed in Alabama. When you order a parts kit for an AK, a SETME, you name it, any number of different guns that were machine guns in the first place, when they send you the parts for it, they send you all of the full auto parts. So this idiot law they passed in Alabama, when I go to my mailbox to pick up a parts kit for an AK or a SETME or anything like that, it would basically make me a felon as soon as I pick that box up.
And Coop, I mind you,
because it has full auto parts in that box.
And that's what I was going to get to. If you're going to be building stuff, Coop, and I strongly advise this, if you're going to be buying a parts kit from online vendors and stuff, I'd say contact that vendor and say, hey, look, they passed this law. I need you to remove those components out of that box. Otherwise, I cannot touch this when you ship it to me. I mean, you think that's the best route?
Oh, these vendors and stuff more than likely ain't even going to do that shit. Half the time you can't get some of these people on the phone in the first place just for a regular customer service issue.
No, but
now, I give it to them. I think some of them might have some special instructions that you can actually work with, but on others, I mean, they're just mass sending stuff out. So, like when I get an AK kit or something I'm going to build, I have to destroy the auto sear. Of course, none of my receivers have a third hole drilled in them, so you can't even mount the sears or the rate reducers or anything else. But just having that part
in possession, yes,
by these idiot-ass laws could blow up in your face.
Yeah.
Well, they'd get you with constructive possession is what it would amount to. Which, I mean, people don't realize you can order full auto parts without an FFL. You can go on
would not advise it, though.
Many different sites and legally order full auto parts.
You can have them.
No, I
just
wouldn't
can't
advise
install
it.
them.
I mean, I wouldn't advise going to any number of different sites and ordering freaking auto sears for your ARs, but I
Yep.
mean, that's completely legal to do. And if I didn't have an AR running around, yeah, I'd wear one as a necklace just to do it. But I wouldn't recommend it. But like criminals are actually paying attention to these freaking laws. All they're doing is they're taking people, normal everyday people, and making them felons. And it's never going to stop the violent felons. It's never going to go out and stop the guys who are out here committing the crimes.
Lawfully is here from Muffin Top.
Lawfully, what's up, brother man? Lawfully, it's an open chat, man, if you want to come in, which anybody. But yeah, anybody's welcome to come in. We're just hanging out. But
I mean,
yeah, it's,
I don't know. It's just interesting and mind-boggling what society we live in. I mean, hell, was it not just the United States, but look at Canada. You think they gave a fuck about all the heavy restrictive laws up there, and it's not even a constitutional republic.
Canada's completely lost their mind. But so have a lot of other so-called free countries. And until the major part of society, the voting public realizes that these laws are not keeping them safe, and that more laws aren't going to fix things, it's going to continue to go this way.
Actually, if you're up for it,
It's
Coop,
going to continue.
We don't have to do it today, but if you wanted to, we could actually watch a short documentary series on Canada and like how it's kind of like, hey, these laws don't do shit, and the citizens have been actually pointing that out nonstop to their government.
We might hook something like that up one day. Just who knows when we'll get to it. Like I said, we've been so busy getting the business started and trying to get it off the ground, and now we're kind of in a holding pattern right now, waiting to hear back from the ATF about the FFL. So
I guess
I talked to a buddy of mine. Huh?
I guess also that's part with your attorney, helping you go through the legal process and everything.
No, man, I didn't go through an attorney to do it. I did some research on drawing up the FFL, got the FFL paper, or not the FFL, but the LLC papers, got all that shit put through. Once you get your basic form of the LLC, it's not that hard. In Alabama, and it's probably like that in a bunch of other states, you've got to go through and do a name search for the business name that you want. If the business name isn't taken, then you can reserve the business name, and then you put through your paperwork to actually form the FFL, or not the FFL, the LLC. Keep wanting to say FFL because that's the paperwork I'm waiting on. But and as far as the FFL paperwork, that's not all that hard. You just got to decide, how you want it structured. Which I want to manufacture. My wife wants to be able to do the gunsmith and stuff on top of that. So that's why you got to do two FFLs. You got to do the 03 for the sales and the gunsmith, and then you got to do the 07 for the actual manufacturer.
Okay.
The only thing I didn't do is the SOT, which the special operations tax, because I didn't feel like throwing another over $1,000 at it.
No, but as far as this going through, apart from the feds, apart from the feds, do you also have to go through your state police in Alabama too with this?
Yeah. When you do your FFL paperwork, you have to submit one copy of everything, including your fingerprint cards and your passport photos, to your chief local law enforcement officer. Now, your chief local law enforcement officer really doesn't have to do anything. They just look at the paperwork, and as long as they know, or as long as they don't have reason to believe that you're some criminal organization, then they don't have to say anything. And the ATF run your backgrounds and fingerprints and all that other shit, and then they're the ones who actually go through and approve.
Right on.
Colt, what FFL types did you do? Because the process or the paperwork for doing your FFL is not all that hard. My wife, luckily enough, after working for the gun shop or working as a gunsmith for the last 3 years, caught some basic paperwork errors that we fixed before we sent everything out, luckily enough. So pretty sure all that's solid. Talked to a buddy of mine. They opened up their gunsmithing business about 2 years ago, and it took about a month and a half, I think he said, for the initial interview with the ATF, and then took a little bit after that, a couple weeks, a month after that, for them to actually get their FFL. So hopefully it won't be like Colt said. Colt said it took about a year. Jesus, I hope it doesn't take that damn long. Dealer gunsmith under 2 names. Yeah, this is filed under, or the paperwork's filed under my name and my wife's name, my wife being the CEO of the company. So hopefully they won't give us too much shit. We'll see. We'll see how this version of the ATF does. Because I held back, especially with the way things were going to the Biden administration. I held back doing everything because they were trying to shut down every FFL that they could shut down, and they put out some memos, or the word came out that they were not going to let people do home FFLs. So all that supposedly changed, so we're going to find out.
No, but I'm not pessimistic, but I am definitely optimistic more now because I don't know if you saw. Did you see Washington Gun Law's video on the DOJ?
Which one? Yeah, I know he did some videos on the DOJ, but he's done a few.
The DOJ has literally made an announcement letter and saying that they're going to be going after blue states that are defined and discriminating the Second Amendment rights of their citizens.
Yeah,
that was like 5 days ago. That was 5 days ago.
They made that announcement. Yeah, they made that. They kind of made that known. I guess it was an executive order on Second Amendment or Second Amendment protections. So, and there was some rumblings from the DOJ about that right after that. So, I mean, we'll see how in the game or how in it to win it they are.
But I think with everything
definitely they've got to be more friendly than they were in the Biden administration.
Well, I think this is definitely the turning point now because Coop, the amount of riots, the freaking lockdowns with COVID and everything. I mean, let's look at it this way. When the riots were kicking off, how many gun owners do you think were becoming new members that were getting firearms or getting new into it after all those, protesters that were peaceful, so-called? Come on. You got a lot of people are probably doing, becoming more owners now.
Oh, Colt, you had to have the state police sign off too. Yeah, see, we only had to have, and through the ATF's own instructions, we only had to have our chief local law enforcement officer, and then the second or copy of the paperwork, or the first copy of the paperwork goes off to the ATF. Now, our chief local law enforcement officer, when we first dropped everything off to their office, I guess it was when the secretaries up there tried to tell my wife they didn't handle that. So my wife picked the paperwork up from them like the next day, and then the following day I took everything back down there and showed him exactly the ATF's instructions on it. It was like, no, you're the chief local law enforcement officer. We're not underneath the city. We're under the county. You guys are the county sheriffs. You guys are the ones that are supposed to handle this. And then we didn't hear anything back from them after that. But, Sister Brooke, what's up?
Oh boy, liberals.
Well, Brooks up there with a ton of them. Lawfully, what's up, brother?
Hello. Yeah, talking about gun ownership or gun buyers during the Summer of Love. We had people of every race, color, religion, and creed come in. I mean, everything from old black ladies to 19-year-old strippers with yesterday's makeup still on.
Well, was it also not just that, but
no doubt.
you also got Jewish people in America also becoming gun owners because with this freaking pro-Palestinian movement, it really affected them, especially with those mass, graves and everything in Israel. I mean, you can't believe, make this shit up anymore.
Well, I think it's unlocked a carnal fear in everyone's mind that ultimately they're responsible for their own safety.
Damn right.
You'd think people would have caught on to that long before then, but yeah.
Well, better late than never, but it's definitely done it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting these next few weeks as things warm up, finally get out of this long winter.
Oh, Coop, I don't know if you saw that video. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, hell, it was last week or so. Lawfully, you guys were still getting snow.
Dude, it was like under 60 degrees yesterday.
Hold on a sec. Let me find that video.
Yeah, dude, our days have been beautiful lately.
So Coop, April 7th, in New York City. I don't know if you saw this or not. I know you've been busy, but this is what happens when you get fed up with fucking protesters. So-called peaceful protesters. See if you can cue that video up. This literally happened in New York City, and I just laughed my ass off. Even though it's wrong, I like it. So sick and tired of your pro-Palestine movement.
About as steep as it normally does, so I'm kind of scared to bring a damn video up right now.
It couldn't be worse than Muffin Top's chat last night.
Dang it, man. Dude, I caught bits and pieces of it, and then I was listening to the replay right before I decided to start this.
What happened on Muffin Tops?
I was scrolling Twitter when we were talking about India and Pakistan.
Oh, God, that war is kicking off already?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's been going on for a while, though.
Apparently, they were bombing the shit out of each other the other night. I hadn't even paid attention to it and freaking started listening to Muffin Top stuff, and it was like India and Pakistan are kind of going hot right now. And it was like, well, today is the first sun we've had for days. It's been beautiful down here besides some rain. And we've hit another cold snap where it's been 60s. But hell, we've had some beautiful damn 70-something degree days lately. It's been nice.
But yeah, Coop,
we got some rain coming in last night. We had some rain come in last night to kind of piss down for a little bit, and things were back today, but we'll see what it does later on. It's been probably the more mild year we've had in a while. Oh, Dave Smith.
Shuts down commerce. They're calling for genocide.
It's hilarious as fuck, man. They literally threw shit from that building, Coop.
Oh, man. That's hysterical.
Hey, you get what you get. You keep pissing off your fucking local neighborhoods. That's what's going to happen. Especially if your cops aren't going to do shit.
Well, man, the cops aren't going to do nothing. They proved that, 2020.
People are getting fed up, man.
People remember the basically what we call the summer of love, but man, they were protesting all the way back in 2017, 2018, pulling all kinds of crazy crap. Tuck, what's up, brother, man? I was watching live streams. Yeah, I was watching live streams in 2016, man, of all these protests and shit getting set on fire and people getting the hell beat out of them.
all the people counter protesting in like
Yeah.
homemade body armor.
Oh, there was one, which this one was up and down. I think Canada. One of the counter protesters just beat the hell out of a couple of them guys and never took the smoke out of his mouth. It was hysterical.
Oh, speaking of Canada, Coop, you been hearing that, by the way? The
I've been
Alberta,
hearing bits and pieces. Like I said,
the Albertan
me
province
and the
is
wife been
literally
so busy
proposing.
moving tools around and trying to get shit started.
The Albertan province is literally proposing to break away from the Canadian country, right? Separating and actually join possibly the states.
Oh, they've been threatening that for a little while. Hell, there have been states threatening to break in half, and that way some of them could join the free states and just let the rest of the state have it. Hell, Illinois has threatened that.
Well, Chicago, yeah, separate Chicago and Cook County.
Yeah.
But no, Alberta, though, here's the thing. So, Lawfully, I want your opinion on this. Is it possible if a province of Canada broke away from Canadian government and it became neutral, then would we have to probably annex it and then it became part of a statehood? Is that possible?
It'd have to work something like
I think you'd have to have a majority vote to take on another state.
Because the problem is you'd be also violating NATO if you're taking on a province. That's the problem. It's technically under violation of NATO.
I don't know whether we'd be violating NATO with anything like that as long as there was a majority agreement about it. You couldn't do it forcefully in between two NATO members. If you had, say a province of whatever wanted to break off and then actually join another country, I don't think that'd be violating anything.
First, you got to annex it, though. That's the problem.
Great Canada. We've gotten so used to, as I'll say in recent history, to being pretty well static, but people forget, man, countries used to change hands and lines used to get redrawn constantly. I say we let Canada be Canada and we just take all the liberal people from the United States and ship them to Canada, and anybody who loves freedom, we just bust their ass in here. That way, technically, you don't have to redraw anything. We do the same thing with Mexico.
Yeah, Mexico.
Take all the people who want to live free, and we'll bring them in, and take all the idiots who want the government to control everything and send their ass to other countries. Works out great for me. We can set up a big ass catapult on the border and just sling all of our liberals to other countries.
Well, if we'd send the
Maybe
2/3
even
of
give
Hollywood,
parachutes. Oh, no kidding. It's probably more like, I don't know, 90%.
a lot of the big names.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean,
Musicians.
it would probably amaze us. Yeah, it would probably amaze us if some of the big names actually so-called came out of the closet with their beliefs. But for years, man, decades, if you had a big name come out that actually wasn't toeing the line, man, they just wouldn't get any work anymore. James Woods, a bunch of others were like that. As soon as they came out and they weren't big liberals, man, they couldn't buy a job in Hollywood anymore. Hey, anytime, Patrick. Fence back. Yeah, you're right there, Tuck. And there's a lot of big names that aren't as liberal as they're made out to be, I think, but they just They know the minute they actually make their views known, then they just won't get the roles. They won't make the money. They'll just be stuck. And then others are probably way more liberal than they actually make themselves out to be.
We send back Jim Carrey, and Justin Bieber, and Ryan Reynolds, and
Lofty, how's business? Yeah. I say, how's business been for you lately?
it's not bad, but it's slower than you'd like it to be.
Yeah. Just
There's still people
between
after.
seasons right now.
Yeah, and there's been so much new stuff announced at SHOT Show that's not actually delivered yet, or not in quantity.
Yeah.
And then, just a couple weeks ago, they had the NRA show, and a bunch of companies announced more new stuff. So there's people interested in that, but like, no one's panic buying anything. You're starting to get those people that seasonally buy ammo, like they're like, oh, the weather's nice, so I'll go shoot a couple boxes. You're getting those people, and then folks looking for new things, and beyond that, it's just kind of just your regulars.
Yeah.
More visitors and tire kickers than motivated buyers, which is fine. I mean, that's what you build that mom and pop business on, is that relationship with your customers. You spin the yarn, ask how their family's doing, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing probably is, I know for us, especially starting out, is it's going to be kind of building that initial base where people actually can see our work, where people have tested our work.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll see. My wife's got a pretty good damn name with a whole lot of people for the work she's done for the last 3 years. So
well, if your area is anything like mine, everybody gripes about there not being any local gunsmiths anymore. But then when they find one, they gripe about how long it takes or what it costs.
Yeah, and that's what my wife saw with the gunsmith she was working for, is, people, which he was about the only name in town when it came to being over in Columbus. So we'll see how things work over here. But you're right. People talk about there's not a gunsmith around, but then it's, oh, well, this took too long, or, oh, this was pricey. Well, I got, so many hours worth of work in that gun plus parts and everything else. Of course, it's going to cost a little bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's she had one customer she was telling me about. Well, it's been a couple weeks ago, where they've done a bunch of different builds for this guy. He basically comes in and he'll drop off a box of parts and be like, "Hey, can you build this for me?" And he was bitching about the price that they gave him for, the final on building this gun, and he was like, "Well, I could go buy a new one for that price." Well, yeah, you could, but you wanted this one built the way you wanted it built. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit more. Not to mention the fact you dropped off a box of parts that wasn't even complete. So those parts to be purchased.
I assume you're talking probably like an AR build.
No, this was oh God, it was I think this one was a Ruger. It wasn't a buck market, but it was very similar. So yeah, it's 22, but there's a lot of hand fitting that's involved in building that gun. You can't just, I mean, you could build an AR with way less time involved in the actual build and the parts than what you can for that gun. Because it's got a hell of a lot tighter tolerances. Like I said, the parts have to be hand fit. And it was just, people don't understand what goes into doing this shit. I mean, it's a lot like a mechanic in a lot of ways, except
it
for
is.
the fact that, mechanics typically don't have to go in and and hand fit parts.
And you want a gun assembled correctly because you're literally holding an explosion.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not just that detailed craftsmanship, that pride of ownership, but mechanically you want it correct.
Yeah, you don't want something that's not headspace correctly, or typically a bolt blowing back and hitting you in the forehead's probably not a good thing.
Mm-mm. Hey, you were saying you got your 07, so you do the gunsmithing and manufacturing, but
Yeah,
I understand
that's
maybe
what we're
wanting to
looking
kind
to
of.
get.
Well, I can understand wanting to kind of tread lightly in the waters till you get stuff figured out, but don't be shocked if you don't come around and get your SOT next year because you're missing out on some good money right now.
Yeah. That SOT is going to be coming, I'm hoping, pretty quickly after we get everything pretty well running. Because I definitely want that as quick as I can get it. But starting out with the 03 and the 07 and just being able to manufacture, I mean, that's at least a pretty good foot in the door. But the SOT is definitely in the plans for sure. All right, Colt said gunsmithing's an art. It sure as hell is. It's especially my wife, man, for the last 3 years working for this other smith, she has learned a lot. And she's always been good with more tedious stuff like the woodworking end of it. I mean, I've seen her do a lot of repair work even before she was a gunsmith that was outstanding. But being able to go in and fabricate parts for old shotguns and things like that, she's damn spot on with that shit. And being able to hand check her, and go in and do repairs and hand check her things, she is outstanding at that shit. That's the kind of work that drives me up a wall.
I don't want to like talk out of turn. You don't live close to Mark Novak, do you?
No, Novak's up in South Carolina. He's actually not far from Night Strike.
Yeah, I knew that. I didn't know how close you and Night Strike were geographically.
No, I'm all the way down in Alabama. I'm middle Alabama, not far from Fort Benning.
All right.
But Mark's a dude I definitely want to go hang out with at some point.
Yeah, he's got a female apprentice that cuts stocks in for him a lot. And she does good work. A little bit she's done on camera.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if maybe that might have been your wife. But that.
No. She's definitely slick at it, for sure. Now I haven't even seen the chick that worked for Mark. I'll have to go look up more of his videos and see what I can see on her. But Mark he's freaking mind blowing with the work he does. But
he's good. I think he farms that out to her because his eyes aren't good anymore.
Yeah, it's definite going in and being able to do the woodwork and the checkering and shit like that. You definitely got to have some good eyesight. I'm to the point right now I'm gonna have to get freaking glasses. Doing tedious stuff like TIG welding and things like that these days, my right eye is getting weak and my left eye is wanting to take over. And when you're right eye dominant, that shit makes you go cross-eyed right in the middle of doing something. Left eye messed up. Persevere with the other.
Seems like there's a lot of people getting into it.
Unless I'm doing something fine. What were we saying?
I said it seems like there's lots of people getting into it right now. Because I've heard of 2 or 3 guys in our area, in my area, that have either gotten or have applied to get their FFL too. So I think there's a bunch of people that think now's their moment to break into it.
There might be like a lot of people might have been like I was, man, when we heard so much of the negative end of what the ATF was doing, especially under Biden. You know, it might have been like me because I wanted to do this basically 3 years ago. Ended up sitting on it, and now with everything coming out to where maybe the ATF is starting to be a little bit more friendly, went ahead and decided to pull the trigger on it.
Right. Yeah, that last 4 years was, you really sweat bullets every day. I mean, not that anybody wakes up and goes to work thinking, I'll just mess up this paperwork today. You know, like it's never intentional.
No.
But the idea that you could check one box wrong, or not proofread the customer's information, and miss it by a letter or something, and know that that's the end of your business. That's some like next level stress every day.
Oh, no doubt, man. And I know my wife and them over at the shop, I know they sweated it. They had some issues. They got audited, I think, probably 2 times over the last couple of years. And there were some minor stuff that they were able to fix. But, I mean, they were sweating that because the way the ATF was for so long, I mean, they'd shut you down over nothing.
Yep.
Tackle, what's up, brother, man? You had people getting there in FFL that had been active for like 20 years getting shut down because they abbreviated states or abbreviated counties, such as something retarded. Matter of fact, one of the hearings that I listened to on it, oh God, it's been, I don't know, it's probably been at least a year ago. There was one FFL, I think they'd been in business for like 30 years. Got audited a couple times. There were some minor paperwork violations. They fixed those violations, and the ATF still went in and shut them down. And hell, they've got a process where you can go through and try to fight being shut down through their appeals process. But if you don't have a lawyer with you sitting there, I think the ATF won over like 90-something% of those.
Mm-hmm.
It was something like only 5% of people who went through an appeals process without a lawyer actually won.
Well, I can't quote you the exact number. Sorry.
Go ahead, Will. No, go ahead.
I can't quote you the exact number, but I know that during Obama's years, the ATF halved the number of active FFLs nationwide.
Yeah.
Just bullying everybody to turn their FFLs in and scrutinize them and stuff. And then, like I said, this past 4 years was like extra scrutiny because you didn't know. And we got audited. I won't say exactly when because I don't want to do anything to like trigger anything. But we got audited. It's the first time. My boss has been in the business at one capacity or another for over 40 years. It's the first time he had ever been audited, both as a co-owner of a previous business and primary owner of this business. And they came in, big old gal and her assistant. So we're here to audit your books. He said, okay. So where are your 4473s? He said, back there in these filing cabinets. So she looked, she goes, you're not computerized? And he said, no. She goes, how many guns have you sold? He goes, about 40,000. And she goes, you're not computerized? And he said, no, ma'am. She said, okay. And it, no shit, took her like 7 weeks. And finally, she gave up. Like, she couldn't finish it all. They just graded us off what she was able to go through. Like, she'd drive down from Little Rock on like a Monday, wouldn't get here till noon, 1 o'clock on Monday, stay in a hotel all week, and then leave on Friday afternoon about 2 o'clock.
Dude, that is crazy.
And finally, they called her back because she couldn't do it all.
Yeah. Dude, the ATF was trying to push everybody to go to their electronic system. Because their electronic system, if you're using their stuff, they can go in and search it at any time. They don't have to come down and physically look through records. You're on their system. And I've got to dig into it more, but the ATF actually uses an AI program called Spartan for all of their stuff these days. And that drove one of the big upticks where they were able to find small violations, people missing stuff on paperwork and actually going and shut these FFLs down. Hope close shot.
So have you all decided whether you're going to do, because the electronic does help a lot with you staying in compliance with your AD logbooks and your 4473s. Have you decided whether or not you're going to do that?
Yeah, we're going to stay completely paper. Me and the
Okay.
wife talked about it. She's looking for some A&D books she likes. And we've been going back and forth with that. But yeah, we're gonna stay completely paper.
And those ones that Brownell sells work fine. But it's really important on your 4473s that you have those customers write neat and legibly in print.
Yeah.
You get some of them crotchety old guys got the shakes. You got Ricky Ricketts trying to fill out his 4473. It's rough because you squint at it while you're holding their ID and you're like, yeah, that's what that says. But then like you go back to look at it 2 days later, you're like, I don't have a fucking clue what that says.
Yeah. So
and if you can't tell, the agents aren't going to act like they can.
No, they're going to hang you the first chance they get. I've got to be careful filling stuff out handwriting because my handwriting sucks. So anything I'm filling out paper wise, I've got to be real careful to sit there and block print everything. So I know I'll have to be extremely careful with A&D books and fill out everything as careful as I can. In fact, hell, I'll just have the wife handle all that shit. I'll just stay in the back. Only thing I want to do is build guns. which is probably why she's the CEO.
She can't gunsmith and work the front of the house.
No.
Doesn't leave her time to get it done.
Yeah, making me do all the paperwork. That seems much like a secretary.
Hey, look, even you said you're going to be doing the paperwork because my handwriting sucks. The wife walked in here. That sounds like making me the secretary. No, you pretty much threatened to stab me if I did paperwork.
You got to be open enough hours to satisfy the ATF that you're like truly in the business. Like it's got to look like a full-time operation. But I would caution you to leave yourself enough time on one end of the day or the other, like inside of a normal work day, for you to like wrap up the books for the day before you lock the door and go home. I mean, it may be at your house, but you know what I'm saying, proverbial home.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, the good and the bad about starting this out as a home operation, because we've like designing the stuff on the website. All of our stuff's going to be by appointment only. So walk-ins are going to be limited. So hopefully we'll be able to manage that and really kind of get our methods down before we get to where we're taking too many walk-ins. Which hopefully that's where the gun building versus the gun smithing will kind of even things out too.
Mm-hmm. Got to do FFL transfers are a good way to make some money too. Just passive income. You find out kind of what the going rate in your area is and meet or beat that, and that'll bring business to you.
Yeah, I think the shop she was working for was like maybe 20 something, 25 on a transfer.
Sounds fair.
Yeah, and me and her kind of bumping around numbers on a lot of stuff now and trying to get kind of pricing together. But 20 to 25 on a transfer like that is enough to cover your time. And I know I've heard horror stories about some places charging like an upwards of $100 just for a transfer, which is ridiculous.
I think a lot of that too has got to do, depends on if you live in a really oppressive state or not.
Yeah.
I don't think down here in the South that they're normally that high.
No, you're right. Because pretty much all the horror stories I've heard. Well, I've heard a couple horror stories from like larger cities in the South, but most of the horrible ones have been in either up north or California, places like that. They were just charging insane amounts of money just for a simple transfer, which to me don't make a whole lot of sense. To them, it probably makes every bit of sense in the world. But yeah, Cole, that's pretty much the way we're planning on running is by appointment only. Matter of fact, our open hours for the ATF form are only like Saturdays from whenever to whenever. So, and I think I
Yeah.
can't remember the minimum number of hours that you have to show open as far as like the ATF goes, but it's not long. You just have to show that you have some open business hours.
Yep, you've got to prove to them that you're wanting to get into business to make a profit, that it's not just so that you can get an FFL for you and your buddies to get stuff cheap.
And that's
the
one
big
of the
key.
questions on the forms for it is you got to check off that, yeah, I'm doing this to be in business and not just to improve my own collection. Because that's where you're what's the curios and relics?
Yeah, the CNR license was FFL. I don't remember.
4. My wife said 4. It's a 4 or something like that. But that's where you're just, that's improving your own collection kind of status there, which is not what we're planning on doing. Transfer fee range from 25 to 100. Yeah, 20 to 25 doesn't seem like bad for a transfer, but when you're jumping up, much over 25, jumping into 40, 50, that seems high to me for a damn transfer. Zany, what's up, brother?
2025 is fair and is worth it for the time it takes you, at least when they go smooth. Now, once in a while, you'll get one that throws you a curveball. Like something will come in and they don't, they didn't include all of the FFL information or the customer information. So then you got to call or email people to try and get all that square before you turn it loose.
Yeah.
Or, some fuck that ought to know better ships it through the U.S. Postal Service.
Dude, it amazes me how little these idiots at the USPS know about firearms or their shipping. Hell, the wife had a couple cases of firearms where they had to go through and get back with the post office to actually track them down because I think they dropped 1 or 2 of them at like the post office box instead of dropping them off at the physical address. A buddy of mine at their gunsmith shop, they had a couple where, hell, I think it was USPS. They just left the gun at the damn mailbox.
Yeah, we got a FedEx guy reassigned to a different route one time. So I guess he was running shorthanded or something, and nobody came out immediately to open the overhead door for him. So he just stacked their shit on the sidewalk and drove off.
Yeah.
Multiple guns in boxes just sitting out there. Fortunately, I mean, we noticed it pretty quick. Once one of us got shook loose from helping people. This was like height of COVID panic buying. But yeah, that young man, he got reassigned routes or fired or something. I don't know. And I'm not out to get people fired, but he needs to understand, like, it only takes a modicum of common sense to know what you're delivering to a gun store.
Yeah. Listen, man, I worry about our damn drivers out here delivering to us.
Hopefully, you get good ones. Take care of them.
Oh, we've had one nuts, man. I think it was a parts kit. And our driveway is not real long. You can see the house from the top of the driveway, but they left a box sitting there. I think it was with an AK parts kit sitting right next to our trash can at the top of the driveway. So I got a notification everything was delivered. And luckily enough, that one didn't require a signature. We, not an FFL at the time, but still. I mean, how are you going to
Mhm.
drop something off? Just sit it next to the trash can at the top of the driveway.
Never mind.
Pray to God you find it before the trash guys do.
Yeah. Or yeah, like my wife said, the mailbox is right across the driveway from the trash can. Why sit it next to the trash can and not the mailbox that's sitting right there? Something. So that someone doesn't think, oh, well, hell, there's a box of trash sitting out there and walk off with it. Which I think it's always been with kind of a stand-in or a substitute mail deliverer out here. But hell, I've had a couple things delivered to the house that were for another address right up the road. Wasn't even close to our address as far as the numbers go. The last one, luckily enough, in the packing slip, it had the person's phone number in there. So I just called him up and was like, hey, this got delivered to my place. I'm going to leave it right up at the mailbox. It was kind of late in the day. I said, I'll leave it up at the mailbox, keep an eye on it, and you can just run down and grab it. And the lady called me back, said her husband picked it up. But yeah, we've had a couple of mail people that have been kind of substituting over here who, man, they did not care where they drop stuff off.
We're gonna have to get a drop box.
Yeah. And that can't happen when we're dealing with firearms.
Well, I'm excited for there to be some more FFLs. That'll bring the margins down,
Yeah.
which will help make everybody get competitive again. Is that something that has, in the last 5-6 years, the margins on guns have almost doubled. And that made sense peak COVID when you couldn't hardly get anything and you needed to go up just to stay in business.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't become the new normal. And I mean, I know the dollar's not what it was even 5 years ago, but as an industry, everybody shouldn't just get used to that.
Yeah. And
The gun companies embrace competition's good.
Yeah, competition's always good. It's developing the customer base where that's probably the biggest thing where people don't mind coming to us instead of trying to go to big box store for something, or with the type of work we're doing, the gunsmithing end, they can't do that. Definitely for the builds they can, but that quality's going to have to be there to kind of meet that, kind of overcome that difference. But
are you wanting to do much like
personal
in the way of retail though?
I'm playing around with some. Yeah, I'm playing around with the idea of doing some, but more kind of, hey, if someone's looking for a specific item or something, then I can go find it, get it for them. Not just doing, just straight up retail.
Yeah. Like, so you're not wanting a bunch of overhead, but
yeah,
you do want to buy through distribution, dude.
Yeah.
Man, what you do is if you got a guy interested in something you can get, you just quote him, like 10% over your cost, 10, 12% over your cost, and it's cheap for him. You flip it back out the door, turn and burn.
Yeah,
a lot of those distributors, you've got to build a reputation with the distributors too to be able to get the allocation for that stuff people are looking for.
Yeah,
it takes a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before we'd really be doing enough to pop up on a distributor's radar as being, hey, but we need to hold up this gun for this amount of product for this business because we know they'll move them. It's going to be a little while before we're in that range. Mike McClune, what's up, brother, man? How you been?
No, that's a G. That's a G.
Keystone Shooting Center charges $45 for an outside transfer.
Had to bump that up so I could read it behind that share your referral link.
Was between 25 and 50. Yeah, anywhere between 25 and 50 for a transfer, I think is pretty reasonable, depending, which is what we were talking about earlier. But again, getting too much over 50 on a transfer just seems like trying to bleed someone. Dude, lawfully, do you guys do any gunsmithing or anything at your shop, or is it pretty well just retail?
Just retail. I mean, stuff that is intended by the manufacturer to be something that's like end user serviceable or installable. We can do. Like we'll swap out sights on Glock, or drop in handguards and furniture and stuff on ARs, or mount scopes, that sort of thing. But we don't do any I don't take a Dremel to anybody's gun.
I mean, at least you guys were doing the scope mounts and mounting and stuff like that, man. Some retail shops won't even do that.
And we did that stuff for free forever. I mean, like especially if you bought scope from us. But finally, last year we implemented a $25 bench fee if you just walk in off the street wanting the scope mounted, or something like that, because or night sights installed, because it got to be the point where people don't have any. They don't lose any sleep over walking in off the street and just expecting you to do something for free.
Oh yeah.
They'll come in with their night sights they bought off Amazon and have you put it on. And we did it for years and years just because it's like free advertising. But then it got to be a point where you're already 3 customers deep, and some dude walks in with 4 Glocks, one sights all swapped out, and he's costing you money at that point.
Oh yeah, dude, he's eating up a ton of time with that. And that's if everything mounts up perfect, and you ain't got to do any tweaking on something. Even just mounting your basic scope. Say you're on a deer hunting rifle or something, man, that takes a little bit of time to get right. So, $25 for mounting a scope, leveling it, and doing a bore sight on it is completely reasonable for the amount of time you're going to spend doing it. And especially if you're doing it right.
Yep, degrees and holes, thread locker, torquing it to spec, giving it the old bump and wiggle, rechecking it.
I mean, be honest, anybody can mount a scope, but getting it done right is worth $25.
I think so. I'm proud enough of my work that I think that it's worth that.
Yeah, at least.
I haven't seen a raise out of it, but at least it puts a dollar value to the work.
Well, I mean, you're doing it right, and some customer isn't out there talking about, well, I wanted to shoot this deer and this big 47 point walked up and I missed, and then my scope mounts were loose and all this other horse shit. There was a shop, which I won't mention, they're here in town, but the one of the guns we bought for my wife, it's I can't remember. It was a Ruger American Bolt. When they mounted the scope on hers, they didn't lock nothing down, and she did end up, I think, missing a deer early that season because of it. And then looked at it, her scope, you could move that joker a 1/4 inch in just about any direction. So they threw scope mounts on it, threw a scope in it, and half-ass tightened stuff down, but they didn't degrease nothing, they didn't thread lock nothing. They just threw a scope on top of the gun and called it good. And that's what you get for free. Someone wanted some extra work done to it, I'd charge more than $25, but $25 for actually just mounting the scope, making sure it's solid. Yeah, that's more than a good price.
when you take care of people, they come back, you know. So
Yeah.
the goal, whether you make a bunch of money off a guy that day or not, the goal is that he leaves satisfied. Because if he leaves satisfied, he'll come back. And that guy that buys a couple of cheap guns off of you over the years is ultimately worth more than one dude that has some one-time highfalutin purchase.
Oh yeah. Listen,
You know, I'd rather keep
guy,
that regular tradesman over that one-time doctor, if you will.
yeah. That guy I was telling you about earlier, talking about he's kind of bitching about the price on the build my wife did for him. You know, he brought in a lot of kits, so they gave him a hell of a damn break on the price for that one build. But it's like my wife said, ultimately he's going to bring in another 6 builds in the next little while. So, you know, keeping him happy was more than worth it. But, you know, I told her if he bitched about another one, I wouldn't be giving him a break on it, because then he's eating up. He's costing you more than he's gonna make you.
In your experience, you know, with y'all actually being gunsmiths and assembling and putting them together, you may have a better time with it than I have. But I try to keep some like AR parts and stuff around for those guys that do buy either a lower from us or something off PSA or somewhere. You know, want to air quotes build their first AR. But that stuff is hard. Those guys that are chasing the bottom dollar, that stuff is hard to be competitive on.
Yeah. And
most of them want cheap over quality.
It's, you know, the shop where my wife worked, you know, they didn't keep, and they let customers know they didn't keep any parts on hand. Everything parts that they had were for builds, or they did have some stuff on hand, but it was typically for guns that they were working on. It wasn't part sales to a customer. Now, would I like to keep some kind of cheaper stuff on hand if we had someone that came in and wanted something built real fast? Yeah. And you can get away with doing that to a point, and it's a little bit different working the smithing end of it and the building end of it than it is kind of the retail end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the difference in between the amount of room you have for inventory and parts is definitely going to be a lot different. So, and that's all tweaks we'll be making as we go. You know how it is. There's always something you're going to tweak and do different, and you know, decide that, well, hell, maybe it's worth it to do one thing versus another.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, it's not even, you know, if you wanted to start your transfer fees at $20 just to get your name out there and move, you know, make some people come your way, become aware of you, that word will spread. You know, those guys that work together that are both gun people, or those guys that shoot together, that word will spread and they'll come to you. And there's nothing that says you can't reassess next year and decide to go up $5. Once they've got
absolutely.
The good ones, like they'll pay the $5 more to continue getting the service they've come to expect.
Yeah, and that's part of what me and the wife are talking about is building the relationships. So it's worth someone to deal with us versus going to a big box store, what the hell ever, to do either a transfer or, you know, even to go buy a gun in a lot of cases, where we can try to develop that relationship where they can call us up and be like, hey, I'm looking for this gun, you know, this finish with these options or something like that. And I can go dig it up and be able to tell them, hey, I got it for you. You know, try to focus on the customer service end of things in a lot of cases, versus, again, dealing with, you know, one of the big box stores where they're just another customer walking in, and by the time they turn around, their name's already forgotten. That's the only way. I think that's the only way even a lot of small businesses can even attempt to compete with a lot of the larger businesses.
It's all on the service side and the knowledge, you know, because those guys work in the big box stores, you know, they may have been around guns their whole life, you know, they end up in those gun bar positions at Cabela's or Academy or wherever because, you know, they passed the background check and they had a cursory knowledge of guns. And I still, you know, I've been doing this for over 10 years now. I still don't know everything. I don't even pretend to know everything. I learn something from customers all the time.
Oh yeah.
But you're going to be able to provide a more intimate and true understanding to the questions that some of your customers are going to have than the guy at the gun bar at Walmart or Academy or Cabela's was ever able to give. You know, a guy looking for
Oh,
particular ammo or has, you know, having an issue, you know, and like you can offer to send stuff back to the manufacturer if they're having trouble with it, where big box stores have all, you know, they don't do that. They just tell you
No.
all sales are final and you have to go through the manufacturer.
Yeah, and you know they can afford to do that. They're working huge volume.
Yep.
You know, one customer having an issue with a trigger or a freaking rail or something like that, it's not even worth their time to sit there and talk to somebody. But you know, I want to be able to, you know, I mean, my wife has learned enough over the past 3 years, especially, where she can tell a customer, no, don't get that. That is just absolute garbage. Or this part's going to give you a much better service life than that part, or you know, the true knowledge end of it is definitely missing from big box stores, or hell, even from some of the smaller shops that I've seen, because they'll
You know,
hire someone behind the counter, like you said, if they can pass a background check, they'll put them behind the counter.
Yep.
And
you know, and even like at my school, we don't do gunsmithing, but like somebody will call and say, "Hey, my gun's not working. You know, is that something you can do?" We tell them, "Well, we don't do gunsmithing, but if you bring it in, we'll look at it, see if there's something obvious. You know, and so we'll kind of diagnose it.
yeah,
At least give them an idea of what's going on. You know, and if they bought it from us, we'll contact the manufacturer on their behalf, get the return authorization, and send it back for them.
and so that
And
kind
a
of
lot,
relationship is worth its weight in gold.
Yep, and that's what brings people back to us, because a lot of times, I'd say more than 50% of the time, we're able to mitigate the problem right there for them and explain why, and try not to, you know, they may feel dumb in the moment, but we try to not make them feel any dumber than they look, because you don't know if you don't know, and a lot of stuff in guns you learn by experience, not, you know, a lot of times it's just an operator headspace issue. You know, the gun's either underlubed, overlubed, you know, wrong ammo. You know, on some of those cheaper ARs, people, you know, think an AR is an AR and they don't understand why this one's not cycling. It's like, well, it's probably on the bleeding edge of just barely in spec, and you just, you know, a little extra lube and just go shoot it, and it will kind of break in, which is probably from the engineering and gunsmithing side is technically not the right answer, but it, for those people that have bought that cheap AR, and you're not going to convince them to spend any money to make it in spec or to throw it away and buy a better one, you know, that's the good enough answer.
Dude, even with some real high end guns, man, putting ammo through it and breaking it in is the exact answer.
Well, and I guess the term I'm using for breaking in, I don't mean the same thing as like a high-end 1911 with a match fit chamber that needs to be shot a couple hundred times before you bet your life to it. I guess that's different kind of break-in than what I mean, where like a AR, you know, the bolt is having to like gall the upper back into a line.
There's definitely some guns that are going to be like that.
Not all ARs are created equal.
No. Not, I mean, you can look at some real high-end manufacturers. I mean, even they have issues with their products sometimes.
Everybody makes the occasional lemon, you know.
Oh yeah,
I've seen it all. You know, and even I've softened my stance on Taurus even over the last decade. I will, to be honest, by volume of guns, we don't send back or have issues like true mechanical issues with any more Tauruses by volume than we do any other manufacturer, really.
Yeah, there's a certain point where your lower end guns, of course, are going to be made a lot cheaper and going to have a lot more issues. But there's kind of a midpoint these days where, it's a lower end gun. Maybe you don't get as good of a trigger, but the overall function of the gun is still going to be pretty solid.
Mhm.
That Taurus G2C that I bought years ago, I think I bought it down at Rural King for $200 out the door. That gun cycled fine, ate everything I put in it. Now the trigger sucked, but the gun itself was dependable. The mechanics were dependable. And I've never been a huge trigger snob. I mean, I do love my 1911 triggers because they're just fantastic. But for a striker fired gun at $200 out the door, everything included, would I tell someone not to get that Taurus? No. Because the gun itself, like I said, I don't know how many boxes of rounds to that thing, and it was always solid. You just had to get
And for
used to the
most
fact
people, that'll do everything they ever need. If that gun
Yeah.
will run flawless for 2 or 3 magazines from clean, then that's all it ever needed to do. I mean, beyond that, I know we all aspire for the finest thing we can possess. We want that go to war reliability. But the reality for concealed carry, or just lawful self defense, that gun needs to work perfect for 2, maybe 3 magazines. And beyond that, you couldn't ever expect that in a lawful shooting.
Yeah. And that Taurus G2C that I bought, or the G3Cs that I know a bunch of other people have, will do that every single time. And if I have someone, hell, I was at the point where I didn't have that much money in my pocket. So a $200 gun that actually worked,
Yep.
that was small enough I could carry it without printing real bad, that G2C did everything I needed it to do. Now that I have a bunch of other stuff, it sits in the safe. But would I pull that thing out and carry it today? Yeah. If I was in a situation where, say, I was working on one of my other guns and wasn't able to carry that one, I'd pull that G2C out in a hurry. It was a solid gun. It was dependable.
You do it. And I know you said you're not a trigger snob. I'm not either. But if you haven't held the new G3C, which is mechanically the same gun, I mean, it's mechanically and aesthetically the same gun. They've upgraded the sights. Taurus finally quit fighting it. The past couple of years, you've seen a lot of the bigger names in the industry quit fighting and have just consolidated to Glock pattern sights. So that way, out of the box, there's already a plethora of aftermarket options. So that way, that guy that wants a particular sight picture can just buy it already. So the G3Cs, they've gone to the Glock pattern sights, and then they've improved the trigger. It's got a little bit wider trigger shoe. But you get the gun in 3 mags now for not much over the cost of what the 3rd mag would cost.
Yeah.
Separately, out of the box.
And like I said, I wouldn't try to talk anybody. Depending on someone's budget, I wouldn't try to talk anybody out of it, because they are solid. Would I tell someone to go with a freaking Sky quality pistol? Oh, hell no.
Well, and you don't have to worry about them anymore. They're going away.
Yeah, they're pretty much toast.
Sky's done. Delton's done. I think High Point probably has hurt the last year or two because they had raised the price. Those weren't $100 bill anymore. If anything, they at one point were closer to a $200 gun. And at that point, that doesn't make sense for you to buy a Taurus all day long. I'd rather buy a used Taurus than a new High Point, just from a practicality standpoint.
I mean, the high points are solid. They're dependable, but when it comes to the size and when it comes to features on the gun, if you had a High Point in front of you and had a Taurus in front of you, Taurus would be the way to go every day, all day. There's just High Point's not going to be at that level. I'll say that. Not for the money. But
I don't think that they're long for this world. I think they had a time and a place during the assault weapons ban.
Yeah.
And 2 decades removed from that, and the diversity and the quality and the availability of decent guns for the money that we see now, because you've always been able to buy secondhand, and I mean legally secondhand. I don't mean one gangbanger flipping one on that he stole. I don't mean that. I mean like you could go into a
Yeah.
dealer or pawn shop and buy something secondhand for the money. But I think that pending something that happens in the news that makes everybody's butt puckered and they run out and buy everything up again, I think we're probably in about as good a time as you're going to see again for the end consumer. Sans the dollar gets stronger again. If we turn the economy around, so I think you're going to see a consolidation. A lot of those gun companies that were the race to the bottom, they sold the cheapest thing, and that was what kept them open. I think you're going to see them go away, and I think you're going to see the higher end guns probably get better on price. I think
I think you're 100% right about that.
High Point pivoting into making ARs. That's a market signal that they were dying selling their same old pistol, and I think that it's a logical pivot, but I don't think that they'll be long for this world because that's already a saturated market. The bragging about the sub $600 AR.
They would definitely have to do something serious to be anything other but on their way out. Because like I said, the sub $600 AR market, I mean, when you're competing against someone like PSA, who, I mean, they've got anything from the $500 AR to stepping into $1,500, $2,000. I can't remember.
Yeah, if Muffin still listening, he'll tell you about his saber.
Yeah. High Point's not going to be able to compete in that market. Now, could they stay alive? I'll ask you this: do you think they could stay alive in the pistol caliber carbine world?
I don't live in a place where you have to have a state sanctioned neutered gun, so I don't know what the totality of their business looks like nationwide. But I can tell you, in Little Old Arkansas, I can count on one hand all those I've sold in the last 6 years.
I know for a while the pistol caliber carbines and stuff were taking off.
Well, I mean, we sell a lot of pistol caliber carbines, but I don't sell a lot of the High Point single stack guns.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying. I mean, like, especially at one point, those things had creeped on up to 300 or better. And at that point, what's another $100 bill and get a Kel-Tec that takes Glock mags?
Yeah.
I know not everybody considers Kel-Tec the epitome of quality either, but I would rather have a sub 2K, that takes double stack Glock mags and is fairly mechanically simple to maintain. Whereas that High Point, the ones that jam, it's because you kind of have to be mechanically inclined to take it apart enough to fully maintain it.
Yeah, I've heard. I've never taken down a High Point. Even the High Point 40 cal I bought, which was, I've joked about before, that was the first handgun I ever bought with my own money. I never tore that thing completely down. And I've heard High Points can be a bitch. Because, well,
it takes 3 hands.
I have my favorite animal, the horse.
You have what? I'm sorry, my son walked in here. You have your favorite what?
Horse.
You have your favorite horse? What's your horse doing in the house?
Walking around.
Just walking around. Well, take it outside for it's got to poop. If not, you're cleaning it up. Oh man. Especially the PSA, BCA, Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't give Bear Creek Armory any of my money. Bear Creek Arsenal, I wouldn't give them my money. They're irredeemable in my mind.
Dude, the AR-10 that I built, which I built it off the 80% arms lower, and it's a Bear Creek upper in 3008. But I tore that gun completely down to nuts and bolts and put it back together myself. And the only issue I've had with that, it does have a tight chamber. But other than that, after tearing it down, Cerakote and everything, putting everything back together, it's been pretty solid. But I don't have 1,000 rounds through it yet either.
Well,
Brad, what's up, brother?
The reason that I would never give them my money was because they got busted, employing all those illegals a couple of years ago. And I could understand one slipping by you somehow, but you don't have a whole shift's worth of illegal aliens working for you, and you not know it. So that, the people that should concern
about that.
Oh yeah, they got raided like a chicken plant a couple of years ago. Had like over 14 immigrants that they bagged up working for them. They had Jose, Hoseby, Jose, had the whole group of them. And as a business, you don't employ that many illegal immigrants and not know. I can understand that one could get on with a forged social security number or something, but you don't hire a whole shift's worth of people that way.
Dude, man, we've got a couple shops. We've got a couple weld shops down here, especially one big trailer manufacturer. Yeah, basically, I would bet money 80% of their staff is illegal. I would bet money on it.
Well, and the only reason at this point that you would break federal law to do that is because you're paying slave wages, So you could almost make the gray argument that that's human trafficking in a sense. So if you're not going to be part of the solution, you're part of the problem, and that's part of the problem up there.
Oh, well, that's part of the reason some of the weld shops around here, some of the manufacturers can get away with keeping their wages as low as they do. It's because they are employing so many people who aren't about to argue about it.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing, boy? The camera's not on, so you can't goof off with it.
As a matter of quality of their product, I can't. I know Jay and Modern Minuteman, some of those guys have been sent out some regular, traditional M4 style Bear Creek guns and have run them and have nothing but good to say about them, and I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not going to rain on them and their lived experience and their brand deals and whatever. But every one of the side charging uppers of theirs that I have interacted with have been dog shit rough. I apologize if your child's within earshot.
No, dude. I'm on my headphone, but no, he wouldn't even blink at that.
But all those side charging guns, and especially the more exotic, the caliber, 50 Beowulf, 350 Legend, all that, they're rough as shit.
I didn't even put a round through that upper until I tore it down and put everything back together. Here, take that.
Helped an old guy put one together in 350 Legend last summer, and it worked, but he was having trouble with it feeding. And he went home and did what he considers his research, and then took the Dremel to it and whittled on it. And I said, be careful. I warned him. When he expressed his intention, I warned him to be careful. I said, you got to be careful, because you go too deep with those feed ramps, you weaken the lock up on the bolt head. I said, don't do that. I said, honestly, you paid for something with a warranty that they advertised, I would contact them and send it back. I would make them make it whole. But he, against my better advice, he's got enough of that old guy ADD that, like, I'm going to make it work. I'm not messing with shipping something and waiting another week. He got jumped out of the skin waiting 3 days for him to ship the upper to him when he ordered it. So he got it running, and the solution was shoot it some more. And he, like I said, that shoot it a little bit and it kind of breaks in. It ran fine. He killed him a deer with it in gun season this year. So he's tickled, and it hadn't killed him yet, so I'm happy. But every one of them I've ever handled has been that way.
I haven't had the only experience I have with Bear Creek is that one upper that I got in 308, and I didn't put a single round through that gun before I tore everything down. But the one thing that I've got with that gun is the chamber is a bit tight. You know, you can see it kind of marking up some brass, just cycling brass through it. But so I couldn't tell, I couldn't say one way or the other about Bear Creek because I don't have much experience with their stuff. I definitely don't have an experience with anything that was built strictly by them. I have seen a lot of other guys that have had issues, but you know, it's getting, you can build a solid gun with a lot of parts as long as you take the time to stake everything properly, time everything properly. And some of these manufacturers, Bear Creek and others, I don't think are doing that. You know, they're working on getting guns out the door. They're not spending time making sure everything's put together right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
Yeah, that final assembly matters just as much as the quality, the specification of the parts.
it
You know,
definitely does.
everyone says mil spec means that's the lowest bidder, and that's true, but that also means that there's a technical data package, there's a standard set.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Colt or FN is able to guarantee to the United States military that under all environmental conditions, this rifle with this ammo is guaranteed to work.
Well, people get hung up on terms like mil spec and, oh, this is mil spec, this is going to be fine. But you know, you can take a whole lot of parts that are basically spec'd out to be the same, and if you put them together piss poor, it's going to run piss poor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot that goes into final assembly on something that actually makes the gun run.
Well,
I
it is,
typically, I'm not going to own anything that will not run.
and it's much easier to produce a military firearm because of the fact that there's this one ammo type. Like there's this narrower operating window.
Yeah.
Like we expect to run on one kind of fuel, if you will. Using fuel in place of ammunition versus a commercially made gun. Now that the steel case ammo is kind of effectively off the market, at least in like the 223 and stuff, you will probably see people get back to having a normal mil spec diameter gas port, unless it's being sold explicitly as a barrel for suppressed use.
Yeah.
But at one point in time, all your DPMSs and your Bushmasters, and I'm sure all the PSAs and stuff. I have one PSA 10.5 upper that I've got. That's been my first-hand experience with them. Besides seeing some other people shoot some at the range, but that's the only one I have owned personally, and it's been fine. So I don't have a dig at PSA as a company, but trying to build a gun for the commercial market and guarantee that it runs as expected with that wide envelope of like the lowest pressure, shittiest ammo, XYZ powder, all the way over here to the highest pressure stuff that's still technically within spec. That's a tough thing to do.
Oh, it absolutely is. But
still to this day, the scars all have an adjustable piston on them.
Yeah.
Have an adjustable gas block, or whatever, on the piston. And to this day, in the owner's manual, it says it voids your warranty if you hang the silencer off the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's crazy for something that they get that much for. That's nuts that they've not worked out a solution to make that not the case.
It's kind of nuts for any modern manufactured firearm, especially as popular as suppressors are for any manufacturer to say it voids your warranty if you hang a suppressor on it. And especially, like I say, with the money you're paying for a star, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous these days, especially.
And that's just the low hanging fruit. That's the one to pick on. But I mean, I understand why. On one hand, I can understand why that's the case because they can't guarantee every make and model of silencer. Like that's just, along with every ammunition combination. And so if their legal team and their engineers got together and they said, well, the easy thing to do is just if you put a silencer on here, it voids your warranty. That way we're absolved of whatever the adverse outcome is. But the silencer market is also better than it was 10 years ago. They could at least work out a brand deal with one or two brands and say, we recommended the silencer. We'll cover it if you use this. This is what we've tested it with. Because when they issued them to troops, there was some, they used a silencer, and it was probably some model of Surefire at the time, because that was kind of the big name in government contract cans.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Contract.
I mean, at least guarantee like pick your top 2, top 3, silencer manufacturers, and be like, hey, we tested this gun with this silencer, and this is proved to be solid. So, it wouldn't be all suppressor. If you hang your own suppressor off of it, if you built one on your own, no, we're not guaranteeing that. But if it was this major manufacturer, we'll guarantee that. But it's
and maybe sell an aftermarket piston or a gas block, just for some blow by or whatever, kind of like the FL. You just put it on there and say, hey, start at the lowest and work it till it locks open on empty mag, and then go up 1 or 2 clicks from there.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was
still
right. I'm like you, man. The only PSA that I've got is that 10.5 upper that I built that first AR pistol with, and that thing's been solid with whatever I throw in it.
Mm-hmm. I've not had any issues with mine.
Yeah, I've shot the cheapest steel case crap I can get, and that gun's ran everything just fine. And
I've shot a little bit of steel
before I tore everything down.
It's run 223 brass. It's run 5.56 brass.
Yep.
At one point, I had a round count on it, and I've forgotten since then. I haven't had it out in several years. But
that thing, before I redid everything, before I tore everything down, put everything back together, it had over 1,000 rounds, probably close to 2,000 rounds. It just mixed 223, 5.56 steel case, brass case, and that thing it ran.
Yeah, I've got somewhere. I don't have 2,000. I've got somewhere between probably 1,000 and 1,300 on it. Like I said, I lost count at one point, and then shot some more, and then forgot to add that to the tabulation, and then I hadn't had it out here, so I've forgotten. I should have had it pinned down. I've gotten better about religiously keeping numbers just for curiosity's sake. Like I've got a Taurus GX4 that I didn't purchase. It was a kickback from Taurus for selling so many guns a couple of years ago. And that wasn't even a motivator like to make me sell Taurus. So before anybody thinks I'm saying good about Taurus because I want more kickbacks, it was like the company went ahead and counted up everything we sold, and just everybody got to pick from the list. And I picked that, and everybody else got the TX22s, which turns out those are probably the finest cycling, I would say, like most reliably cycling 22 pistol on the market. I won't say that they're more accurate than some of the competition, but they're they will eat the largest variety of just off the shelf bulk ammo than anything. But that back to the GX4. That GX4 that I've got, the first time out, the front sight screw tried to walk loose. We retightened it with a pair of needle nose pliers, and it started to work loose again. So I went ahead and just pulled it off and just finished the range session, just kind of point shooting just to get rounds through it.
Yeah.
And it has ate everything I have fed it. One friend that was with us managed to make it fail to feed the first round out of a full magazine a couple times, and I have never been able to replicate that issue. And even with him doing that after that first round, like once you got it loaded, it ran like a scalded dog. And that was that first range outing. I've not had any issues with it since then. And I've probably got, let me go back and look at my notes. 400 rounds of ball ammo and about 50, 75 rounds of hollow points between all manufacturers, because I took boxes of like partial boxes that I had of stuff and tried standard pressure plus pressure. Let's see, Spear Gold Dot 124 plus P, Remington Golden Saber 124 standard pressure, the Hornady American Gunner 124 plus P, the American Gunner 115 grain standard pressure. One friend had like 4 rounds of some old core bomb that was crusty that needed burned up, so we burned that up. The old Winchester Defender 147 grain, which is that same bullet they've sold for years. They called it different things. It's same bullet as the old Black Talons, just less the black molly coating on them. You know, they've sold them as the Rangers tees. And they don't change the bullet. They just keep changing the packaging and what they call it every 5 or 6 years.
It's amazing, but yeah, that's about the way they work a lot of times.
And then one time off SG Ammo, I went in splits with him on some stuff. They had like a smoking deal on some 147 grain plus P stuff from Winchester. It was some new packaging or whatever. I guess anytime Winchester experiments with a new package, they do a commercial lot of it to see how it does, to get feedback from the shippers and stuff. So this stuff is in just plain white box looking commercial packaging, but it's in like it's a 50 count box that comes stacked like lasagna, and it's about the size of a big ring box. This stuff is 147 grain jacket hollow point. The part number on it, it's oddly not where it ought to be. There we go. It's a Z9JHP 147. That stuff's naughty. And that's what I've been carrying in it for the last year or so. I've got enough left. It was a 50 count box. I've got enough left in the box to rotate out a fresh mag for the summer here shortly. I need to go out and shoot up what I've got, and I'll rotate mags out. But it's run good. After I put the sight back on with some Loctite, it's been fine. The GX4 take the Glock pattern sights too, so I thought about putting some XS big dots on it.
Dude, I love some SX big dots. Trey, did you ever get that 357? It was a 357 SIG you were working on. Did you ever get that thing worked out? Trey was building a 357 SIG, basically like a pistol caliber carbine, a 357 SIG. It was looking slick. But yeah, Tread, you're right. Me being an asshole working customer service, which I've done it before, and I was actually really good at it. It's not to say I didn't go home and want to beat myself in the face with a shovel.
You know who John Willis is?
Sounds familiar, but I couldn't say 100% offhand.
Shaved head, long goatee, owns original special operations equipment, SOE out of Camden, Tennessee.
Yes,
all the web gear. Yeah. He regularly fires the customer. He is the biggest forward-facing asshole there is, but like people dig it, like everyone. I mean, I guess the Karens of the world don't like it, but all the regular people, like you stood in line at Walmart trying to check out, and some Karens willing to fit over some bananas that didn't ring up right. Those people, Like it's like he's like the retailer of Fight Club. Like he just says what everybody else is thinking, and like you either appreciate it and you do repeat business with him, or you hate it and you don't. And there's a place for that in the gun market. The customer is not always right. Now, I know that not everybody's personalities gel well together, but normally if you've got a modicum of respect and you tell the truth, normally everything works out. Once in a while, you get some guy,
Well,
his panties are in a wad.
you're never going to make everybody happy, never. But if you're someone like him who stands behind his product, well, if his product has an issue, it's 100% he'll take care of it. You know, you don't mind telling one dude that, or a couple of guys every now and then, that look, the product wasn't meant for that. Why were you trying to tow your truck with the strap off your web gear? Of course it broke. But
Normally, it's not even. Normally, his negative interactions like that, it's before the person ever even takes possession of the item. It's usually the people that don't read the fine print. And he warns you before you place an order. Make sure that what you're ordering is in stock. Otherwise, it's a back order.
Mm-hmm.
And so his thing is like people will send him an email 3 or 4 days after they've ordered something that was a pre-order, and then they're mad that well, if this doesn't ship, I'm doing a chargeback. And he's like, don't worry about it. Your order is canceled. Your money's refunded. You're not a customer of mine. Please don't do business with me again.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the gun business, you have that experience. A guy pulls a gun on you, whips a load pistol out of his pants, and if you got a holster for something.
Dude, there are very few things that drive me as crazy as it will for someone doing some crap like that. And my wife's had him do it in the gun shop, and I'm like, man, I probably would have just absolutely butt stroked that dude. There was one, she was telling me a story about it one day. That dude basically flagged her, the secretary up front, another customer, and my wife said she finally just walked up and took the rifle away from him. It was a lever action, whatever, I think. And she finally just walked up and took it away from him. It was like, your privileges of holding a gun in the shop are revoked for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
because you have no muzzle discipline whatsoever. And
anybody else within earshot is appreciative of that, because you're looking out for not only your business, but you're looking out for their safety as a customer.
Oh, absolutely. And at that point, man, they're just an absolute danger to everybody that's within the vision of them. And God knows, man, my uncle who passed away a couple years ago, he was horrible about muzzle discipline. I knocked on his bedroom door one day and he said, come in. I opened the door and he had his damn Colt 45. It was I think that's an officer's size, pointed dead at me. I just kind of laughed, went over there and took it away from him. My wife liked to freak. She was right behind me when I walked through the door. It's like, man. And of course he said, well, there wasn't no mag in it. I really don't care. I'm looking right down the pipe on a 45. I don't care whether there was a mag in it or whether there was a round chambered at that point.
Yeah, that's usually the first thing that somebody says is, well, there's not a magazine in it. It's like, I don't care about the magazine. I care about the one that in the pipe. It may or may not be there, but it is there until I know it's not.
Oh, and there's tons of, and I'm sure your shop's like any other gun shop that I know of, where people walk in, oh, well, it's not loaded, and you take it away from it, rack slide, and drop a round out of it.
I've got a jumbo pickle jar, 2/3 full of live ammo.
Yep.
But it's not loaded jar.
And that amazes the shit out of me with people. How the hell do you not know you got a round chamber? Much less just not having muzzle discipline, but not know you've got something chambered.
Admittedly, not all those have been in the pipe, hot, ready to go. Sometimes those are in magazines that somebody brought a gun in and they pulled the magazine out, but not, or like say a lever action. You know, the magazine tube is sure enough full.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Billy Bob's duck gun that, you know, he brought it in because it's jamming or something, and some bitch is fully loaded along with yesterday's duck pond slew. You know, it's make it devoid of ammo before you bring it in here.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, Lawfully, let me get out of here. Lawfully, tell everybody where they can find you.
On YouTube and Instagram at Lawfully Armed. Usually Tactical Muffin Tops live shows Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7, 8 p.m.
And hopefully I'll be catching a lot more of those live these days. Everything's kind of calming down a little bit. We'll see how the next little bit goes. And be on the lookout, like I said, especially since CNT is now an LLC, you'll probably see another channel open up where all the business end of stuff will be, and then you'll still have my smart ass running around here on this channel talking shit. So hopefully hopefully everything will kind of calm down. I can start doing some more hangouts and lives. Anyway, let me get out of here. Lawfully take it easy, brother. Everybody's still in chat. Tread, brother, we'll talk to you after a while. You guys all have a good day, and we'll hook another one up shortly, man. Later.
Yes, sir.